You might not realize it, but Interstate 90, which crosses Montana from east to west, also acts as a major corridor for drug traffickers.
But what might surprise you the most is how drugs are getting to Montana and where they're coming from. Drug traffickers from Mexican drug cartels use our intricate highway system as a drug superhighway, and our communities fall victim.
MTN's Andrea Lutz goes in depth with law enforcement, how law enforcement are trying to keep up.
Interstate 90, a lifeline for Montana. This artery pumps millions of dollars of commerce into our state. It keeps our economy open for business, but also leaves Montana exposed.
So we know that almost all methamphetamine comes from Mexico. Almost all of our heroin comes across the southern border from Mexico.
And directly from Mexican drug cartels. They use our intricate highway system to get it here, forcing law enforcement to pay attention in a way they never have before.
We can at the very least hurt them where it hurts the most. And that's by taking their product off the road, and that's by taking the criminal proceeds from the sale of that product off the road.
In 2017, the Montana legislature funded a criminal interdiction team, 6 full-time troopers with specialized training in narcotics who conduct high volumes of traffic stops looking for criminal activity.
Drugs are transported in cars, on bus lines, even in our mail. So getting it here is easier than you might think.
Meth is ordered up locally from a drug supplier in Mexico. It's driven through a border crossing into a southern state. Then it can usually go one of 2 ways, from Arizona to Salt Lake City or Denver and directly into Billings, or from California along the west coast through Seattle, along Interstate 90 into Montana, where the distribution often ends, heads farther east, or goes north to Canada. On a brisk fall day, Montana High Patrol Trooper Darvin Mees sets out on shift. His goal for the day is simple: keep Montanans safe. On this day, he's checking speeds on Interstate 90 from Laurel to Lockwood.
My responsibilities are those of any other trooper out here, being crashes, complaints, DUI, so forth.
And if he's lucky, he might even take drugs off the streets.
In addition, though, I have this tool that's used for drug interdiction.
Trooper Mees works with Sayar, a drug tracking canine.
3 dogs. You'll notice that she will really get fired up, and she'll probably start barking, and she'll probably get loud. She knows something's going to happen, and she may or may not get out of the car.
Trooper Mees and Sayar are often called upon weekly if an officer suspects drugs are in a car. This year they made over 60 drug seizures. Today, he's about to do one more. A mere 2 hours into his shift, Trooper Mees spots a car in Billings with a shattered windshield. He makes a traffic stop, and soon backup arrives.
Jumped out at all of us was that windshield when it went by us.
With only a glance in the windows, he sees drug paraphernalia scattered in the car. Because the occupants allowed Trooper Mees to search, this time Sayar wasn't needed.
There was Q-tips and cotton balls for filter, foil with burn marks, lots of foil, and brand new foil. And we end up with 3 addicts and a low-level dealer. I mean, and it's, that was at what time in the afternoon?
However, like many Montana law enforcement officers, he's forced with a tough decision. The Yellowstone County Jail is full. Only violent offenders allowed, which means the drugs are seized and the occupants are free to go.
The next best thing is to get them a court date, get them in front of a judge at some point here in the near future, and hopefully that'll get them down the road to maybe drug court.
These drugs are likely from a Mexican cartel. They're next admitted into evidence to build a case. Scales, foil, scoops, 7 grams of methamphetamine.
Just so crystal white.
Even heroin.
Yeah, that's what they were calling it. Chocolate, yep.
Now, at least, it's off the streets. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Along with using our interstates to bring drugs to Montana, we're also learning that traffickers are using creative ways to avert law enforcement as they bring it here in cars. And we'll dive into part 2 of Montana's Drug Superhighway tomorrow night at 10.